I'm 70 years old, and when I look back now, I can see that by the time I was 62, I had already spent decades ignoring my own heart. I didn't call it that then. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. But the distance was already there. Okay. I'm telling this now because at my age, there's no rush left to outrun the truth. The future doesn't stretch far enough anymore to hide things in it. What's left comes forward on its own. Most mornings are quiet. I wake before the light is fully settled, before the lying street outside makes up its mind to move. I sit on the edge of the bed longer than I used to. Not because I'm tired exactly, but because there's no reason to hurry. No one is waiting for me to be anyone in particular. That's when the memories usually arrive. Yeah. I didn't grow up thinking feelings mattered much. Not in the way people talk about them now. In my family, you did what needed doing. You showed up. You stayed steady. If something hurt, you kept it to yourself and carried on. That wasn't cruelty. It was survival. At least that's how it was explained to us. So I learned early how to quiet myself, how to listen to what was expected of me before listening to what stirred inside. I became good at it, good enough that I stopped noticing I was doing it at all. In my 20s, life felt like a list. Finish school, get a job, pay the bills, find something stable. I followed that list carefully. People told me I was sensible, responsible. Those words felt like approval, and approval felt safer than desire. There were moments, even then, when something inside me tugged. A different path, a conversation I wanted to have, a chance I wanted to take. I noticed those feelings the way you notice weather through a window. Briefly, without stepping outside. Bonda, I told myself I'd get to them later. Later became my favorite word. In my 30s, things filled up fast. Work, routines, obligations, days stacked on top of each other until they all looked the same. I was busy in a way that felt important. Being needed can distract you from being empty. I married. We built a life that looked solid from the outside. A home, shared responsibilities, plans that made sense on paper. I cared deeply, but even then, I was careful with myself. When disagreements came up, I focused on practicality, what worked, what was reasonable. I believed emotions were things you managed quietly, not things you followed. She would ask me sometimes, what do you want? I hated that question. Not because it was intrusive, but because I didn't have an answer that felt real. So I gave answers that sounded acceptable. Comfort, security, peace. She nodded. But I could tell I was missing something. I didn't know how to say that I had been trained not to want too much. The slow cost of ignoring myself didn't show up as pain at first. It showed up as numbness, a dullness I mistook for maturity. I stopped noticing what excited me. I stopped being curious about my own reactions. I became very good at doing what I was supposed to do. Band of friends would talk about passions, about things they felt pulled toward. I listened politely and told myself not everyone needed that some people were just built to be steady. I used that story for a long time. By my 40s, I had achieved what I thought was success. Stability, respect, predictability. I wasn't unhappy exactly. I just wasn't present. Pomender. I remember sitting in my car one evening after work, hands on the steering wheel, engine off, feeling an odd heaviness. I couldn't name it. I told myself I was tired, that everyone felt this way. I drove home and didn't mention it to anyone. Small moments kept slipping past me. Birthdays where I smiled but didn't feel connected. Conversations where I nodded but didn't engage. Decisions made automatically because that's how they'd always been made. I wasn't choosing against my heart. I just wasn't choosing it at all. The turning point didn't come with drama. It came quietly, the way most real changes do. A health scare. Not fatal, just enough to slow me down. Kundo I was, looks her then. Lamb sitting in a doctor's office, waiting for test results. I noticed how little of my life I felt attached to. Not ungrateful, just distant, as if I had been living someone else's outline. The doctor talked. I nodded. I heard the words, but my mind went somewhere else. I thought about how easily time had passed, how much of it I had spent postponing myself. Blend. That was the first time I allowed myself to think that maybe ignoring my heart hadn't been neutral. Maybe it had been costly. After that, things didn't change overnight. I didn't suddenly become brave or expressive. I just became aware. Awareness is uncomfortable. It removes excuses. I started noticing how often I dismissed my own reactions, how quickly I told myself something didn't matter, how often I chose ease over honesty, not with others, but with myself. That was the first time I allowed myself to think that maybe ignoring my heart hadn't been neutral. Maybe it had been costly. After that, things didn't change overnight. I didn't suddenly become brave or expressive. I just became aware. Awareness is uncomfortable. It removes excuses. I started noticing how often I dismissed my own reactions, how quickly I told myself something didn't matter, how often I chose ease over honesty, not with others, but with myself. Some relationships had already thinned by then, not because of conflict, but because I had never fully shown up in them. People can feel that, even if they can't explain it. When my marriage ended, it wasn't explosive. It was quiet, sad, long overdue. We sat at the same table and acknowledged what neither of us had said for years. Mon Dieu, I realized then how much of myself I had kept guarded, even from the person closest to me. I thought I was protecting the relationship. I was really starving it. What can't be fixed now is not the ending itself. It's the years I lived half present within it. The conversations I avoided because they might require me to speak from a place I didn't understand. Time doesn't give refunds for emotional neglect, even when it's self-directed. Banned in my late 60s, after retirement, the quiet became unavoidable. No schedule to hide behind. No urgent tasks to justify distraction, just long days and the echo of choices made. That's when loneliness changed shape. It wasn't about being alone. It was about finally meeting myself without an audience. Chenda, some days that meeting was gentle. Other days it was harsh. I grieved things that never happened, paths I never tested, versions of myself I never allowed to exist because they didn't seem practical. I also felt gratitude for the people who stayed as long as they could, for the life that did hold together, even if it felt incomplete. Both things live side by side. Banyan does. If you're listening to this, I don't want to tell you to follow your heart. That phrase is too neat for something this complicated. I only know what I wish I had understood sooner. Damn Gargan yourself doesn't keep life simple. It just delays complexity until there's less time to work with it. You don't need grand clarity to listen to yourself. You just need to stop dismissing what keeps returning. I thought there would be more time to figure things out. More space later to feel deeply. Later came, and it was smaller than I expected. Now, at 70, I live more honestly with myself than I ever did before. Not dramatically, just quietly. I pay attention. I allow reactions. I don't rush past discomfort as quickly. It doesn't fix the past. It just makes the present feel more real. Mond, if this meant something to you, you don't need to act on it immediately. Just notice where you're silencing yourself out of habit rather than choice. I spent decades ignoring my own heart. I thought I was being sensible. I understand now what it cost me. And with the time I have left, I'm finally listening, even if the voice is faint.